So good morning, everyone. Again, this is Brad McConnell speaking, and I am the CEO of Accion serving Illinois and Indiana. This is a very interesting experiment we have here in technology. I'm quite impressed, actually. This has come off as well as it has so far. I'm going to hold just for about a minute, just to give everyone an opportunity to join who would like to in the beginning, and then I will get us going right away on that. So give us just 1 minute, please. Okay, hopefully that is long enough. So first off, welcome everybody. I know that people will be coming in and out so that you can hear from as many as possible of the institutions. I think I'm going to spend less than 5 minutes just going through some of the basics on who Accion is and what we're offering, because I really want to get to your questions as fast as possible. So just 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to do just a brief screen share so that you can not have to take such scrambling notes and have something in front of you to evaluate. So just very briefly, again, Accion is a mission-driven, nonprofit, community development financial institution. We're based on the west side of Chicago. We help neighborhood entrepreneurs grow by providing the capital and coaching connections small business owners need. I should just say that even though we're based in Chicago and I live in Chicago, I grew up in Indiana. I am a graduate of Elkhart Central High School, and my undergraduate degree is from the University of Notre Dame. So this is quite personal for me, and I want to make sure that we are as helpful as we can be for people in South Bend in particular. To do that, I'm going to just briefly talk through what I think the main options are for people who are seeking capital right now. And again, that's federal, city, and Accion. And I'll do this very quickly because I want to get to your questions. And remember that all this is recorded, including the presentation that you're seeing here, which is why I'm putting it up on the screen. So two options federally, one specifically here, which I highlighted just in brief before, but I'll spend more time on, and then we'll talk about Accion's sort of non-emergency product, sort of half emergency product here in just a moment. But federally, I think, as many of you know, the Paycheck Protection Program is, I think, the most attractive capital that's available if you can get it. And that's the big if, of course. And so a lot of the details are here. We heard a couple of the financial institutions who were already presenting here in different chat rooms talking about this. Most importantly, the loan will be forgiven if you meet certain criteria for the use of the dollars after you have received your disbursement from your lender, and then 8 weeks further have spent at least 75% of those proceeds on compensation for your staff. So I won't belabor this because I know you're going to hear a lot about this from other places, but just know that if you can find a Paycheck Protection Program loan, I highly recommend that you take it, because at 1%, it is the most attractive capital available in my judgment. There is the other SBA program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's also a very good option if you can get through the process. This is the one that is directly applying through SBA. That has its challenges, because there aren't lenders providing these loans. These are the SBA directly. They've had technology issues for the overwhelming demand and such, but it is an option. And particularly if you apply, you are going to receive from the SBA a $10,000 grant. We like grants. Grants are better than loans. So to the extent that you can then go through that process and get that $10,000 grant, I highly recommend it. For the purposes here, though, the South Bend Business Emergency Loan Fund is what Accion is standing up right now. And so I just want to walk you through the criteria and the process that we intend to follow here. What we're looking to do here is to help small business owners who are in our neighborhoods. And so those who have less than 50 employees, less than $3 million in annual revenue. And we're looking to size these loans based on what you were doing in normal times. So we're going to ask for business bank statements for October, November, December. We're going to extrapolate from that. What was your average revenues per month in 2019? And then that'll be the maximum amount that we would lend, up to $50,000. Again, the rate is 3% fixed. It'll be interest and principal fully amortizing from months 7 through 60. But in the first 6 months, there's no payments at all. And the application we would put live today, and I will obviously, through Sonia, be providing the link to everyone to that who is participating on this, so you know exactly where to go. A couple just other things. We want to make sure that we have business who have been in business for a year and who will make a personal guarantee to back the loan, even though we're not taking any collateral or any sort of hard assets like that as part of the backing of the loan. We're just looking for businesses who are real. This is basically our attempt to sort of weed out fraud and those who are just so new that we don't have a track record to evaluate. So those are the basics, but again, I want to get to your questions quickly. And then just briefly, Accion has also launched an expanded line of credit, which we will get back to once we have expended the funds that we want to invest at 3%, because this is a 9% interest-only line of credit, which we will, I think, make available once all of the rest of the funds have been extinguished. So we'll come back to that, but this is a line of credit rather than a term loan. But again, we're going to spend most of our time here, I think, talking about the emergency response that's specific to South Bend. So finally, this is just the way to keep in touch with Accion. That emergency capital site that you see, the URL listed here for how to reach us via the internet, that is the place every single day where we are updating all of the information we have available to us across all the different programs that are available to small business owners. And so this information that's specific to South Bend borrowers will be posted on that site by Monday at the latest, and really should be by tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to pause because I really want to get to your questions. And then for the rest of the time, we'll either toggle back to the elements of the presentation here if you'd like to see more detail about that, or we'll just answer the questions as they come in. So I'm going to stop that screen sharing and then just ask for anyone who would like to either unmute themselves or just ask questions in the chat to go ahead and do that now, please. Okay, question number one is, when can we begin applying? The answer to that is Monday. And so I will redistribute the link through Sonia to everyone who participated on this, so that then you know exactly what to click on to get directly into the application. And so again, Monday will be the date at which the application will open. Other questions? You can either do that via the chat or via unmuting, your choice.
Good morning, Brad.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Pilo from Pilo's Body Shop in Mishawaka, Indiana. I heard the last of their conversation as I was joining, but so you were saying that. Tell me a little bit more about the application.
Yeah, so the application will be pretty simple. It'll take usually takes about 15 minutes to fill out. We will be asking for business bank statements from October, November, and December. So unlike, I think, what you may have experienced if you're applying for a loan through a bank in normal times, we're not asking for a pile of documents that you would typically expect, like if you're going for a business loan or a mortgage or something like that. It's just business bank statements, and then proof of ID we'll eventually be asking for as well. So the application is online. You can fill it out. Once it's received by us, we're going to collect some number of applications. I'm going to come back to that in a second, and then try to process them all sort of day by day at once, so we can get the money out as quickly as possible. So there's a big question here in my mind about speed, because as I've said over and over and over again to everybody who's been asking us for our assistance throughout all the programs that we're partnering with city governments, state governments to launch, this is about cash and time. And that's just reflecting what small business owners have been telling us over and over again. So we need to be as quick as we possibly can in providing the funding that people are requesting, while also setting people's expectations about the overwhelming demand that we have in each and every one of the instances that we're standing up as quickly as we can. So what I'm going to be doing as of Monday is, based on what I see is the sort of general sense of demand that I can deduce from today's, I was getting ready to say call, from today's Teams event, I'm then going to instruct our team to size what we're trying to do appropriately. And therefore, we've got to make sure that we have the funds available in order to do as many loans as possible before that funding expires. But we need to do it in a way that's as fast and as transparent as possible. So again, application goes live on Monday. It's about 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most to fill out. We'll ask for those business bank statements and then get back to you as quickly as we can about where you are in the queue and how that works for your place in that line relative to the amount of money that we think we'll be able to distribute in a timely fashion. So you just have your expectations set appropriately.
Okay, give me a sec. I'm finished writing them down here.
No problem. And this will all be recorded, by the way.
Okay, where can I get the application then?
Yeah, so we're going to send you a direct link to that, so you know exactly where to go get it. And you don't have to write down a very long web link here. So everybody who's on this overall chat, not just in this kind of breakout room, but for everybody, you'll get the link on Monday, so you can just click directly on that without having to worry about unintentionally misspelling it.
Okay. And you're going to send that link where to? You're going to leave it on this?
Yeah, so the email that you use in order to get access to this
yes.
Microsoft Teams thing, you will get an email from Sonia with that link.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for that information. I'll be looking forward to talking to you guys.
Great, thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Other questions I can take either via chat or verbally?
I have a question. So we didn't have to enter in an email address anywhere to join this. So how can I provide that?
Oh, good point. I thought you did. That's a very helpful clarification. Thank you. So in that case, let me ask this. How did you receive the information about the, oh, you know what? I'm going to make this easier. Remember I'm going to show this again. I'm just going to put the link directly onto the sites that I drew everybody to. So I'm going to put back that emergency capital link that I was showing before. So see that web link right there, us.accion.org/news/emergency capital. That's way too long. I got to figure out how to shorten that. But that's where we're going to put the application link specifically for the South Bend loan. And you'll see on that page a section dedicated to South Bend. So all you'll have to do is from there, just click on the link that'll say something like apply. And then that'll be the way that we'll handle it. That'll make it super simple. And again, this recording will be available on the city's site so that then anybody can access this. But thank you for highlighting the fact that email won't work. That's a really good that's a really good call out.
Okay, and that web is that information's there now or not till Monday?
It'll be up. So this site is live now. The information specific to South Bend and the application link they'll be able to click on will be up as of Monday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, what was your name and what was the name of your business?
Brett Gordon's Towing and Repair.
Thank you.
Hi, this
Hi
is
there.
Well. So just a second and flash the eligibility chart. Can we
Yes,
do that again, or is that in the chat? Or
I will do that right now. For the South Bend Business Emergency Loan Fund, here are the basic criteria. Obviously, on the application, we'll provide all of the details, but we're looking to provide the loans to businesses that meet the eligibility criteria at the top there. And we hope that we've got the balance right between trying to provide as much kind of attractively priced capital as we can, as flexibly as possible, while also taking those very, very scarce dollars and investing them in the businesses who've been around and have a track record a little bit. So that's tricky. I mean, I'd frankly prefer as a mission-driven nonprofit to open up the criteria even further. But given that we know that the demand in every single case for every single program that we've launched in every single location has far exceeded the supply, this is kind of the way that we've decided to size out those who we will be able to fund. Any questions on what you see in front of you, though?
no, I think I understand this pretty well.
Okay. And what was the name of your business and your name?
Well, it's Michelle Blanford with All Over Creations. I operate a local bakery.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to check the chat real quick. Okay, so we have a few. I'm just going to go through these in order as I see them. We can be in applying, we covered that. The link we showed again, support business in Mishawaka. That's a great question. So this is something that I'm going to be continuing to talk with the City of South Bend about today, because I would love to have essentially a Michiana-wide application. So far, the funding that we've received has been South Bend specific, but that'll be clarified for sure by the time we get to the application launch on Monday. And I do hope that I can find the funding to allow us to go outside of the city of South Bend and do it in a more kind of regional way rather than just within the city, but I'm not sure about that yet. For cyclical businesses, we look at 12 months rather than 3 months. Yes, very good point. Thank you for that, Greg. Our intention is to keep the documentation requirements as light as we possibly can. However, recognize that there are businesses who, if you're just looking at October, November, December business bank statements, would seem to be smaller businesses with less revenue than is really true, simply because you're a seasonal business. So in those circumstances, we would welcome you providing us with 12 bank statements instead of 3, even though we won't require that. And so you're certainly, if you have a seasonal business that you want to kind of show us the data on, then yes, we'll work with you on that. Eric's question was, my business started in September of 2019. Is too new to apply? Unfortunately, it is. The businesses we're going to be funding through this program will be in business at least a year beforehand. And again, I don't like that, frankly, but given the scarcity of the funds that we have, we're trying to figure out how to fund as many businesses who have established a longer track record as we can. For a real estate LLC, we don't have a monthly sales number, asks Jeremy. Can we be eligible to apply? I think same as the cyclical business question. And so in that case, we'll look at a longer window of business bank statements if that's better for you, even though we're trying to minimize the documentation headaches for those that don't need to do so. Jeremy asks, how fast will the fund be released after application is approved? That's a great question. So our intent is to open up the application link on Monday, to look at all of the applications that we receive in a matter of the first 4 days. So then on Friday of next week, take all those applications and then communicate to everybody who's applied in those first few days. Here's how many applications we've received. Here's how many dollars we have to lend. And therefore, here's for you specifically, like how you should think about whether you're likely to be high enough in the queue. I think we will then be able to communicate hopefully reasonably effectively about the likelihood of funding. And on that basis, we will then get through all those applications in the following week in an attempt then to provide you with the funding by, let's see, now we're talking about 2 weeks from today would be the target. So next week to apply, week after that to process. The speed of that funding is not totally in our control, just to be clear. It's in part dependent upon just how fast we can get from you the documentation we require to evaluate your application and to finalize it. And then in turn, how quickly you can sign all of the documents via electronic DocuSign in order for us to then provide you with the funding. But our goal would be that we will provide you the funding within a week of us evaluating that first round of applications, which again would be 2 weeks from today. Although just to be crystal clear on that, I never want to overpromise and underdeliver. We can't totally control that, and I don't know if all the funds would be out that fast, but that certainly is our objective. Brian asks, is there a specific link to the loan application? Yes, so I'm going to show that one more time, and this is sort of the nature of what we're doing here. Hold, please. I'm going to make sure you have that link. So the link to the application will be here, that us.accion.org/news/emergency capital URL. Again, I got to figure out how to shorten that. So sorry, but that'll be where we will place the link to the application on Monday. All right, so back to questions in chat. I don't see any others. Anyone would like to unmute and ask a question live?
Yeah, I've got a question for you.
Please. What's your name and your business name?
Greg with Gold Star Vending.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, my operation is located physically. The warehouse is in Granger, but because it's a one where I put vending machines inside of businesses, most of those are in the South Bend area. And you talked about there being a line of demarcation at this point about where it's just for South Bend only, but I'd say 80% of my machines are in the South Bend proper area.
Yeah, great question. So just to repeat, I'm hoping there isn't a line of demarcation that would make any distinction whatsoever between Granger and South Bend. The if we're forced, just based on the funding that's available to us, to only be serving, in this case, businesses who are operating in South Bend, the way that we will determine that is the business address on the business bank statements, because that'll be the essentially the way to verify the validity of the business through the know your customer portions of what a business bank account would have to imply anyway. So depending on where your business is located for the purpose of your bank, that is what we use, depository bank. So again, between now and Monday, I'm hoping this is irrelevant, but that's how we'd look at it, if not.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And thank you for the question about the seasonal businesses too. Other questions, either live or via chat, particularly for anybody who just came in, and I'll grant everyone that it's an interesting concept, much like I think it is when you're sort of walking around a room where if you've heard what you need to go to hear, and then you're moving on to the next room, absolutely right. But if you just joined this room, you're thinking, what did I miss? Just remember that if you just joined us, that all this is being recorded, and you can access that later on, I think today on the city site. But nonetheless, I'm happy to take any questions that you've got now that you may have missed before. Looking over to the chat.
Hey, I was in the original session when you started talking, but I came late. But I also, you introduced yourself, and my name is Fonnie and Linden Grill of them. And I had a question. You said that you guys are loaning up 1,000 for 5 years at 3%.
Correct.
Okay. And what are the qualifications for that money?
Yep. So I'm going to show you that on screen, and then kind of quickly walk you through that.
Okay.
So hope you can see that.
Yep.
So basically, we are looking for a minimum of 500 credit, been in business for a year, and that you'll provide the personal guarantee. But we're not asking for like enormous amounts of documentation. We're not asking for tax returns. We're not asking for the normal kind of stuff, because we know that in a crisis, time is of the essence. So the sizing of the business is important. Less than $3 million in revenues, less than 50 employees. The size of the loan, up to $50,000, will be based on your average monthly revenues from Q4. And we'll just look at 3 business bank statements in order to make that quick calculation. But those are the basics.
Okay. And how can we set up a meeting with you, or to go more in detail about filling out the app?
Yeah. So the application will be live on Monday, and it'll be live at that location, us.accion.org/news/emergency capital. When we do that, we're going to post the application, and then also post a link to just have a place to just go answer questions or go ask questions, so that our entrepreneur relations team can then get back to you personally with answers to your questions. We'll do a lot of that virtually, just via email, but if it's just a very specific set of circumstances we need to talk through, we'll just call you. And so depending on how complicated it is, that's the way it'll go. Given that we're doing thousands of answers a day, we're doing most of those in writing, again, so you can sort of make sure you don't need to be taking copious notes through all of it. But absolutely, we'll pick up the phone if we need to, for sure.
Okay. Sounds pretty interesting. And okay, you say you can access it through Facebook or LinkedIn. Okay, I got it. Cool. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Others?
I have a question. I'm with Brett Gordon's Towing and Repair again.
Yep.
Okay, for this is our bank statements might not accurately reflect. We deal with a lot of cash, which then we turn around and pay our vendors with from time to time. So, I mean, would you take could you do our tax return instead of bank statements or something like that?
Yes, this is always tricky because this is kind of the nature of the work that we do. We serve businesses that are often cash driven or often have what a normal bank would consider to be just financials that are just a little different, right? Just because of the nature of the business. So I think in this case, although the program very explicitly relies upon business bank statements, if you can show us through some other means that the business bank statements really don't provide an accurate reflection of what your average monthly revenues were in 2019, you've got a different way to handle that, then share that document with us. So for example, if you've got your 2019 returns filed, yes, give us your business bank statements because we have to have that as required. But then on top of that, I think, yeah, also share with us the 2019 returns so we can use that instead.
Okay, thank you. And do we have to have that all ready to submit the application, or can we submit the application and then get the documentation to you later, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think certainly the ideal is you do it all at once, but we know that a lot of businesses we work with, getting the documentation together takes time, so I totally get that. I think creating the application and then having your documents ready by the time that we get back to you to process that application, that'll suffice. But I would highly recommend that by the time we get back to you by, I think, the beginning of the following week, that you've got your documents ready. Otherwise, we'll, I think, just for speed for all the other businesses, I think move on to the next business in the queue and then get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning. Barely.
Hello. Good
Hi.
morning. How are you? Can
I'm
you hear
good.
me, sir?
I can indeed.
Okay, good. I just logged on a little late. I'm switching over. This is Accion, right? Am I
This is
saying it
Accion.
right? Accion.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I have a question. I'm a child care provider, so I just wanted to know what is the process for applying for the application regarding what documents do I need to get over to you guys, and then what is the limit of the loan? Like, what is it starting at, and how does that work as far as like how much may I get approved for versus documentation, if that makes sense?
Does indeed.
Okay.
So I'm going to put a bit of information up on your screen if you can see that.
Thank you.
The way that we're going to size the maximum amount that you can borrow is, first, it's up to $50,000. Second, we're going to be looking at your average monthly revenues from October, November, and December of 2019 in order to figure out what your business was doing in normal times and have that be the amount that we would be able to lend. So we're going to be collecting through the application, which will be online on Monday on a site, which I'm going to show you in a second.
Okay.
Business bank statements from October, November, and December. And that'll be the primary documentation that we use to figure out how big your business is. And so the payments, again, will be no payments at all for 6 months, and then we'll have months 7 through 60 of a 5-year term loan, fully amortized payments of 3% interest. So we'll be paying principal and interest starting in month 7 on a 3% loan. So you have to be in business for at least a year, and the application can be accessed through this link here, the web link you see. So us.accion.org/news/emergency capital. We keep this page updated basically every day for all the things that are available and then on some days no longer available to small businesses. By Monday, we will have a specific section on there for South Bend. And so we'll have an application link that'll be in that section. And so you'll see there that it'll list off all the other programs we're partnering with other folks to do. But it'll be pretty easy to find the South Bend section.
Awesome.
Any other questions I can answer?
Yes, this is Michelle from All Over Creations again.
Hey.
I don't want you to get too detailed in it because I have a specific question. But when you open up the possible barriers, will that be something that we'll know? Because for my particular situation, since I'm a mobile baker, my bank statements come to my home. My office address is in Mishawaka, but I bake in Niles, Michigan, because there's no shared kitchen in the South Bend, Mishawaka area. So I'm kind of everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Well, so Michelle, let me just say for your particular case, our business, Accion, is located at something called the Hatchery, which is on the west side of Chicago, and it is a food and beverage incubator, which we're both the joint venture partner owner of, developer of, and also one of the two main tenants. So we moved our entire team to co-locate there. And we therefore spend a lot of time with folks who are using either the shared kitchen, which we have in there, which has 6 slots in it, which you can rent by the hour, in a method that I'm sure you're familiar with. We also have 54 private kitchens, which you can lease for a year. And so we've gotten pretty good at, I think, understanding better than we did before the sort of the unique circumstances that folks who are building food businesses have in order to meet those FDA requirements for being able to produce in a kitchen that's verified for food production. So highly sympathetic, I guess, that's a long way of saying. We're going to talk, I think, as soon as I can, about the flexibility on geography. And so we'll be very explicit about that on the site that we have available on that URL that I showed before, which will be a South Bend section again, so that then no one wastes their time on any application for which they won't be eligible because of geography. But instead, we can be very clear about the regional or the South Bend specific geography that we'll be using. And again, in either case, we'll be keying that off of the address on the business bank statements, because that is the simplest way for us to verify location in a shelter-in-place situation where we can't do site visits like we typically would.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for running a good business.
I'm trying.
Others? Check the chat real quick. Okay.
Oh, I did have another question. This is Michelle again. It's in the chat. But it may have come in late. The question was, how long will the application be open? So let's say that a business says, right now, I think I'm okay, but in 3 months, it's hit a little bit harder. Is this still going to be an option then?
That's a great question. So this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. I think this is my sort of 12:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. Thought process after the 16-hour day that I know you're all putting in as well, to try to figure out how to kind of race into the fire here and either save businesses or save your own business. So first, the emergency funds, call them like the rescue, right? These funds are going to be available just for a short time because we know the funding is so scarce and the need is so great. And so that is the 3% 5-year fixed loan that we've been talking about here. So I fully expect, we should all fully expect that those funds will go quickly, and that after that, there's still enormous need that small business owners have. And so to your point about, well, what if we're into the recovery and we need capital? So that's what Accion does, right? And so we'll be shifting back to something that looks a little bit closer to normal, although I don't think they're ever going to be like the same normal again, at least for the way that Accion operates. In that moment, we will then be back to offering the expedited lines of credit, which gives you flexibility in what you're using, even though we're using capital that is more expensive for us, and so therefore it'll be a little more expensive to the businesses. So I'm going to just screen share that. So you can see briefly how that will look. And that, nope, sorry, there we go. And here's how that looks. So we'll be doing, we'll be looking for businesses up to $25,000 based on just early revenues in 2020 that weren't specific to what happened when the pandemic really started in earnest. The rate is higher there, so it's a 9% rate rather than a 3% rate, which is more to what we normally do. And I should say, just for introductory purposes, our general intent as a mission-driven nonprofit is to provide capital that you can't get from banks. So if you can get a bank loan, you should take it. And we partner with banks rather than compete with banks. So we are always going to be spaced in between what a bank would lend, which would be more like 5, 6, 7%, and what a credit card would offer, which is usually something like 14.99% or something like that. So our rate would be 9% in this case, and again, would be flexible on a lot of different things that normally a bank would not be on. And again, not in any way to discredit banks. It's just simply the functional model they have to operate on because they're regulated differently. But that's what we see on here on your screen is what I think 3 months from now we would be working with you on. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to go back to the chat quickly, see if I've missed anything in a moment. Nothing there. Any other questions I can answer?
Hello?
Is that Laquita?
Brad, I have one more question.
Sure.
Can you?
Yeah,
Yes, yes. Okay, you said that I'm a new owner of my child care. I've already done my taxes, but I've been in business since September. So when you said a year, do I need to be functioning the whole year for 19 in order to apply for your application?
Yes, so what we've typically been doing is looking at the date of the business license that you received, or if you're in an industry that didn't need a business license, some other documentation to just show that you started your business at least a year before you applied. So that's not the same thing as like you've been making money since then, because we know that businesses start and they don't actually have revenues for a period of time. That's fine. We just want to know that you've been in business for a year and have some documentation to substantiate that.
Okay, I can provide my license. Thank you.
Yep. Others? In fact,
when you mentioned the hatchery, you guys aren't looking at expanding anywhere in this area, are you?
Great question. To be totally honest, that thing was so hard to do. I'm not sure I'm ever going to try that again.
Yeah, I know it's a challenge, like I said, because I've been in business, it'll be 3 years this May, and I'm out of Michigan, and it took me a while to find that. And I live in Elkhart, so it's a 45-minute trek for me even to get there. So in December, I tried looking for a closer location. I think I have one. I'm working with the Elkhart County Health Department there to, get all the licensing and everything, but I'm in somebody else's kitchen with them. So they're actually running a cafe, and I've got to kind of work around their hours. So luckily they have one day a week that they don't operate, so that'll be my big production day, and then the rest is, decorating, getting everything together. But there's Valpo here, which is a little over an hour and 10 away. And then, there's Fort Wayne, that's an hour and a half. And those are basically, there's Carmel in Noblesville, but those are 2 hours.
That's way too far.
And Elkhart doesn't have anything, nor have they talked about it. I know Mishawaka's played with it, but I know it takes a lot to get it going, and it's not a huge moneymaker because you have beginning entrepreneurs who don't have any money to give you. So there was a location in South Bend. I won't mention where it was, but their rent was $6,000 a month. I'm like, oh, and it was big, but it's like, I don't want the job of finding several people to be in there. That's not what my business is, but there's no way that I could, if I can pull $6,000 a month to pay you for rent, then that means I'm doing pretty darn good. And
you get your own kitchen
location at that point. But
yeah, so we started fundraising for this thing in 2016. Finally got it financially closed in 2018. It took a year to build. So we opened in January 2019. So to be clear, it's different and bigger. I'll encourage you to come see us on the west side of Chicago if you're ever around. Because it's not just the shared kitchen, which we offer $10 an hour to use basically anytime you need it between 5 a.m. and midnight. We're going to go 24/7 shortly. The real key is that it's the private kitchens, which are available for annual lease. So those run, and that's just yours, just for you, but you get all the surround sound services of being in a building that is shared with all the other businesses. So those leases start at something like $2,000 a year for your unique space that you can use 24/7 whenever you'd like. But man, was that thing hard. So it was one of those classic situations where everybody said, "Oh, Accion, this is way more ambitious than you ever pull off. This is a $34 million project. How are you going to pull that off?" And as soon as we pulled it off, then everybody said, "Well, I mean, surely you know how to do that now. Let's do it again. You should be doing South Side of Chicago. You should be doing, wherever." So we will not be doing one of these anytime soon in another place. But the most important thing I think to say is that I think there are lessons to learn from that model that don't require you to raise $34 million and spend a year in construction. We can do, I think, smaller, more targeted shared kitchens better and faster than that. And so that is something that we're evaluating. At least we were until we entered the crisis. So more to come on that much, much later, I think, once we can get out of the teeth of the pandemic that we're currently in at the moment. But I do encourage you to please stop by and say hi if you happen to be in Chicago.
Well, that might be like, in addition to just coming to see it, but that might be beneficial too, because again, I'm mobile. So, I know if I'm doing, like, I know Chicago does the food truck, festival. Well, if you do 2 days, the thought process of loading everything up and moving it to come and restock from Michigan, that's not something that's at all attractive. So it may be something that may be beneficial if I'm doing events there. I think at this point for me, Chicago is still a very large market, and it's still only me. So I can recruit some people to help from time to time, and the prices of Chicago are not as friendly as I need them to be right now to be part of the event. But still, it's a nice thought process to think that if I'm in the area, that I have a place that I could rent to be able to meet the code and the health department requirements, but still participate in that. In Indiana, I've participated in 9 different counties, so familiar with most of the health departments. Some are just like table events with cupcakes or whatever, and then some are with the dessert trailer at this point. But it's a cool idea. It's very difficult to pull off because the Midwest has not yet. Hey, stop it! The Midwest has not quite caught on to food truck craze.
Yep, you're right. And we've done a lot of food truck businesses. We actually even constructed the shipping and receiving area at 2 different levels for distribution so that we can handle semis that come in to do the normal regional distributions for those who are doing packaged goods to get distributed to Kroger, Mariano's, Whole Foods, wherever you're going. But also at a lower level for food trucks to be able to pull in at your truck height and be able to get in and out quickly. So yeah, I mean, look, as a as a graduate of Elkhart Central High School, I would happily have somebody be operating in the kitchen who just needs it for a couple days here and there. So just please let me know how it can be helpful for you if you decide that that's something you want to do.
Awesome. What year did you graduate?
90. I almost said 94. That was undergrad. 90.
Gotcha. I graduated in 95 from that same school, so we're not.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying. It's challenging. I mean, one of the positives, because I'm just kind of gathering information. I'm in a personal financial situation right now, anyhow, but not having the kitchen and all that helps as well because you don't have the overhead. So
That's right.
This hits, and it's like, yeah, it's not comfortable, but I'll survive. As opposed to, if I would have signed a $6,000 a month lease for somebody, I mean, that's just, he and I have talked. I'm like, there's no way you're gonna sell that to anybody.
Well, we just had one of our best first businesses who came in early at the hatchery. He's a coffee guy. Business blew up in 2019. It's a classic incubator success story. He then moved out because, again, this is what we encourage people to do. Needed more space, needed to take his own space down. Signed his lease in February for a year, and man, he's now trying to figure out how to get out of it, and it's tough, real tough.
It is. I mean, I personally don't have any desire to have my own because of how much I plan to move. It's like I don't, because I also do wedding cakes and that kind of stuff. So that's basically going to have to be my focus for this year to get those personal cakes, but they're still not going to be of any large size. It's going to be definitely quantity this year. That'll kind of keep me going because my goal had been for a food truck. So that's kind of why I was on here. to just kind of see what your rates and criteria was. Like I said, we're in a situation financially, personally right now that we're working through. So that's why my timeline question was there. So not
Makes
necessarily
sense.
function, but what's your business practices overall
Mm.
for lending? So.
Well, let us know if we can help. Certainly, I really appreciated the extra time we got, which is kind of normal for like being in person in a sort of an open house. But that was really lovely. All the people who are going to listen to the recording and think, "Well, that was a nice conversation." I hope.
Well,
So, yeah.
and I didn't want to ask when there were so many people on because again, it's really drilled down to a very specific thing.
Right.
I didn't know you prior to this, so to even know where to start outside of just calling and hoping to get, a representative or sending an email helped out a lot. Thank you.
You got it.